Welcome, and thanks for joining us today in our Species Spotlight series. My name is Roger Thomas, and I'm a staff scientist at the Academy of Natural Sciences in Drexel University, and the operations manager for the Biodiversity, Earth, and Environmental Science Department at Drexel University here in Philadelphia. And today I'll be presenting some of our freshwater mussel research at Lake Lacawac in the Pennsylvania Poconos. First, a little bit about our study area. Lake Lacawac is part of the Lacawac Foundation Sanctuary. It's located east of Scranton, Pennsylvania. And the lake's around 52 acres in size, and it's frequently been called the southeasternmost unpolluted glacial lake here in North America. Shaped like a half moon, Lake Lacawac was formed during the retreat of the last series of glaciers, and now is two primary habitats: an organically rich bog to the west and north, look towards the left side of the drone video here, and lake bottom sediments that are composed of more sand and rock towards the east and the south of the lake towards the top of the video. Academy researchers have been studying Lake Lacawac since the 1950s. The lake is home to hundreds of species of plants and animals that take advantage of the wide variety of terrestrial and aquatic habitats that you can find there. Researchers from Miami of Ohio University have installed sensitive monitors on this floating platform that records seasonal changes in the various water quality parameters that occur from the bottom of the lake to the top. Tools like these are important to document any changes in the regional climate that may have occurred over time. Lacawac is also a perfect living laboratory for teaching all aspects of environmental science. Like you see Drexel University professor Dr. Dane Ward here demonstrating water quality monitoring with his students on this small john boat floating on Lake Lacawac. Shallow water habitats common throughout Lake Lacawac are home to 30 species of aquatic plants and numerous small invertebrates and fishes. Some portions of Lake Lacawac, more protected from the prevailing winds, have stable bottom sediments dominated by sand and cobble, a perfect habitat for our freshwater mussels. Here's a young eastern elliptia we found in the sand at Lake Lacawac. Freshwater mussels, like this group from the Delaware River, are the most threatened and endangered group of animals in the world. In North America, there's approximately 300 species, and of those, around 70% are threatened or endangered. Mussels are what we call ecosystem engineers. By that I mean they filter particulates and potential pollutants from the water column. They provide microhabitats for algae to attach to, and places where other invertebrates and fishes can hide. And then they also serve to stabilize the bottom, much like cobble and rocks do. Here's an underwater photo of a mussel filtering water on the river bottom. Mussels have a very unusual life history. They actually need fish to help them reproduce. They need fish to act as a kind of an intermediate host. Other bivalves like clams and oysters are broadcast spawners, meaning that when they reproduce, they spew their young directly into the water column, and then they're on their own. They settle at the bottom and grow. However, freshwater mussels need an intermediate host to carry the small mussels until they're large enough to survive on their own. Here's an illustration that kind of shows how this unusual reproductive strategy unfolds. Many mussels attract fish with what look like realistic lures resembling small fish that are actually modified tissues that the mussels display outside their shells. If the host fish attacks the fake lures, then the female carrying the small mussels, we call them glaucidia, ejects them at the host fish, enveloping the fish in a cloud that usually contains thousands of glaucidia. You know, the small mussels will clamp onto the fish's fins and gills and stay there for around 2-3 weeks until they're large enough to drop off and burrow into the sediment. Here's a close-up of the young mussels that were sampled from a gravid female mussel just before they attach to a host fish. In 2020, a team from the Academy of Natural Sciences and Drexel University came up to Lake Lacawac to conduct a mussel survey throughout several transects within the lake. Here's Malcolm Newman in the foreground and Dr. Dane Ward setting up one of our transects and a view of some of the shallow water habitats that we sampled. We used 2 meter by 2 meter square quadrats that were randomly placed along each of the transects and snorkeled throughout the quadrats and we tried to collect all the mussels we found while digging in the sand and cobble. Here's Malcolm holding one of the many eastern elliptia we found at Transect 2. We didn't sieve out any of the sand or cobble or anything, but we were focused more on some of the larger freshwater mussels that were in the area. All the mussels that we found were tentatively identified in the field, measured, and many were tagged with numbered tags in case we wanted to come back and do some future monitoring. Here's an eastern elliptia that we tagged and an example of the mussels collected from one of our denser quadrats at Transect 5. Here's Dr. Dane Ward and Catherine Longwell measuring some of the mussels that we found and recording the transect data in our survey log. The results of our initial mussel survey are very encouraging. With over 1,300 mussels measured and 2 species identified, although the population was dominated by eastern elliptio, with over 98% of the total recorded. Here's a draft plot showing the size range frequency of the elliptio we measured from transects 2 and 5. In this initial survey, it appears as though this is a rather mature population. Although given the limited time we had on site, we may have been able to find some much smaller mussels if we had the time to excavate and sieve all the surface sediments within each of the quadrats. It's not really surprising that eastern elliptio dominated our collections. It's been my experience that eastern elliptio is usually the most numerous species we encounter in the Northeast. You can see in this range map that they can be found throughout the East Coast, north into New England and Canada, and westward through the Great Lakes states. I hope you enjoyed our species spotlight on the freshwater mussel research we've been conducting at Lake Lacawac. As you can see, mussels are amazing animals indeed, with such an incredibly complex life history. We're currently trying to secure some funding for a follow-up mussel survey at Lake Lacawac, and it'll be interesting to see if we find similar mussel densities in other areas of the lake, or even in deeper water. As I mentioned previously, mussels are filter feeders, and it'll be beneficial to estimate the potential effects of mussel filtration on Lake Lacawac's plankton and suspended particulate concentrations. We're looking forward to the next survey and trying to get a clear picture of the potential effects mussels may have on Lake Lacawac's aquatic ecosystem. So, the next time you're walking in a stream or wading through a shallow lake, take some time to look down through the water. You just never know what you might find. On behalf of our Academy and Drexel project team, I want to thank you again for joining us.